Hi Tinies! Today I'm going to be doing a project that I've been putting off for a while because it's feeling really intimidating. But I decided I'm going to go ahead and do it on camera because we had talked about this before when I made my last sourdough bread. Whew, sorry, I ran upstairs and came back down. So I am going to be using the recipe from Grains in Small Places, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do 1 or 2 loaves, and I think I should just start with 1. So I have to have all my ingredients here. Let me get this calculated and then I'll come back and we're going to mill the grain. And I am using hard white wheat and kamut, and obviously the sourdough. So I'm going to do my calculations and then I'll be right back. All right, so I have done my calculations and I'm going to start by measuring the water, and I need 180 grams of room temperature water, and then we need some butter is 21 grams, and I'll put this recipe below. So let's measure the butter, and that's 21 grams. It's exactly 200, so we need 1 more gram, a little bit more. Tempted to just throw the whole little piece in there, and that's 201 and that is what is left. That's okay. I'll be needing some butter later, so I'm going to put that away. And then we need 30 grams of sugar or honey. What to do? I don't know. I should probably go with, let's see how soft my honey is. All right, we'll go with the honey. And we need 30 grams. And I am using some local honey that I got at the farmer's market a while back. So let's go ahead and get that measured. That's exactly 30. And the next thing we need is 4.5 grams of salt. That is 3.6. And I need 4.5. Exactly 4.5. And then we need an egg and 57 grams of sourdough. You can see that the sourdough is really active. I fed it last night. And we need 57 grams. Oh, right there, 57. And I have linked these wooden spoons before, and I'll go ahead and link them again today in the description. All right, let's put away the sourdough. And I really need to make some more recipes today because I have too much sourdough. And I don't like to keep too much sourdough. And then we'll need an optional egg for the bread later. So now we need to measure our wheat. We need 221 grams of either hard white wheat or hard red. And like I mentioned before, I am using the hard white wheat. And this is a Colorado white wheat, and they call it windy white. So that's what we're using today. And we need 225 grams. Maybe I should be making 2. All right, that's exactly 225. And we need 55 grams of kamut. I'm starting to wonder if I should make 2 loaves because this looks so tiny. Let me think about this. Okay, let's put in the 55 grams. Okay, that is 55 grams of the kamut, and that's the kamut that I'm using. Okay. So now I'm starting to wonder, okay, so the reason why I'm feeling so stressed about this is because I am using a Bosch mixer for the first time, and I'm not sure if this is going to be too little. So maybe I should be doing 2 loaves, but I only have one small 4x8. All right, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to do 2 loaves. So I'm going to go back and measure. We've done all our ingredients, so I'm going to go back and double up on the rest of the ingredients, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I believe we have all our ingredients, and that is 450 grams of hard white wheat and 110 grams of the kamut. We have 360 grams of water, 42 grams of butter, 60 grams of honey, and 9 grams of the salt. And we have an egg, which should be at room temperature, and then a half a cup of sourdough, which is 115 grams. There we go. So I am ready to mill the flour, and this can get a little loud, so hopefully we'll rectify that during editing. All right, and like I've mentioned before, I have this little cap that I put on the grain mill, so I make sure I don't have flour all over the place. And as you can see, there's actually flour in there. And each time I use a grain mill, I clean out as much as possible. But every time you move the grain mill, there seems to be some flour pouring out. So with this, it pours into this instead of pouring all over the countertop. And I have linked this before in the description, and I'll go ahead and link it again. So let's get that flour going. I need to turn this around and get my cord. That's how I store my cord. And I've linked that in the description before, and I will link it again. So let's get this plugged in and turned on. And you're supposed to turn on the grain mill before you start pouring in your grains. So let me go ahead and do that. Hopefully you can see that. So the setting. All right, we are done with that, and I think I'd have been okay with just making a single loaf. But this way I'm following the instructions exactly, because we're doing this for the first time. So now what I need to do, I need to put this cap back on so I do not make a mess. Move this to the side for a second. And now I need to do a small reset here and get our mixer on the table. So give me about a minute and I'll be back. It'll be just a second for you. All right, so that's what the Bosch looks like. And there are the pieces that we got. And we also got that. We got the 2 whisks. And there's that piece that goes with the 2 whisks. So I'm going to take a moment to wash all these pieces and wipe this down and make sure everything is clean. And then we can go back to baking. So this is what was making me really, really nervous. But as I was unboxing, I'm feeling a little better about it. So let me get it cleaned up and then we can proceed. All right, we have cleaned the bosh and I've wiped it down thoroughly. I've turned it on to make sure that it works the way it should. And that probably took me about 20-30 minutes because I wanted to make sure that I read the instructions before I did anything. So next, what we need to do is we need to add our water. And I also watched the manufacturer's video on how to put it together and how to clean it. So let's get the water and the butter. So I've warmed up the water and butter for about 20 seconds. And you want to make sure that the water does not exceed 110 degrees because you don't want to kill your sourdough starter. So that's the water and the butter. And next we want to get in our honey in there. And the next ingredient is the salt. Here's our salt. And then we need to get our egg in there. And the egg is at room temperature now, which is good. All right, so let me get that verified. So we've added the water, melted butter, honey, we've added the salt, and the eggs. So now we need to mix that together. Clean my hands while that is going on. Let's see if I can show you that. So that looks well mixed in. All right, so now we need to add the freshly milled flour, which is over here. And I'm gonna get myself a little cup. I'm not sure how messy this gets, so I'm going to be careful. Okay, so it says add the freshly milled flour into the stand. Mix slowly until the flour is completely incorporated. All right. I'm making a mess. Let me not do that. Stop that for a minute and make sure I get all my flour in there. I probably should be doing this in a different place. That shelf is a little too close. All right. And so for now, we are really not kneading the dough. We just need to make sure everything gets incorporated. And as you can see, everything is now incorporated. So we're going to turn this off. Now that the flour and the liquids are incorporated, we are going to put the cover on and let this sit for, it says 15 minutes to an hour. So let me get the cover on there. And while this is resting, I'm going to clean up. And remember, we haven't yet put in our sourdough. So right now, all we are trying to do is rehydrate our wheat berries. So I will see you when I'm done cleaning up and we're ready for the next step. All right, it's been about 5 minutes and I have gone back and reread the instructions. And I started watching the video for grains in small places. And she mentions that if you are using yeast, then you wait the whole 15 minutes to an hour before adding it in. But for the sourdough, you should go ahead and add it in because the sourdough takes a lot longer to become ready. So we should go ahead and add the sourdough starter now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in our sourdough. Hopefully you can see that. All right, make sure I get it all in there. And make sure you're doing this with clean hands, obviously. All right, so we're going to turn this on and let it mix completely. And we just need to make sure that the sourdough is mixed in. Looks good enough, so we'll turn this off, and we're doing this on the lowest setting, which is 1. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, and we'll let it auto-lease for at least 15 minutes. And I had my timer set to 30 minutes, so I think I'll let that whole 30 minutes go, and we'll be back. All right, so it has been 30 minutes. So we are going to start the kneading process. And I am going to check it probably every 5 minutes or so until it passes the window pane test. So let's get this going. Well, let me show you what it looks like before we get started. All right, so that's what it's looking like. And as you can see, it has spread in there. So let's get it going. There you go. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes. I have wet my hands. I have my bowl over here. So let me show you what this looks like. And you can tell it is not ready yet. So we need to knead it for another 5. Yeah, I'm going to do maybe about 5 minutes and then check it again. And according to the grains in small places, her instructions say it could take anywhere from 7 to 30 minutes, depending on your environment. And this is supposed to be a wet dough. And by looking at it, I know you feel the need to add flour, but we are not going to do that. We're just going to trust the process. So I'm going to get it going for another 5 minutes. I'm going to set my timer. And as you can see, it is still breaking apart. So I'm going to set my timer and we'll see you in another 5 or 7 minutes. You can see that the dough is still sticking to the sides. All right, so I don't know if you can really see that, but if you look at the middle where you have the white thing, it is not sticking as much as it was earlier. So it's looking cleaner. The edges still look quite a bit stickier, but you can see that the dough is really wanting to stay together. So that's what we are looking for. So we'll be back when this 5 minutes is over. All right, so it's been 5 minutes. So that's what the dough is looking like. And you can see once you stop kneading, it goes flat. So we know we're not quite there yet. And when I lift the dough, still really sticky, even with my wet hands. But we are making progress. Yeah, that's really sticky. All right, I'll let it go for another 5 minutes. All right, so it's time to check on the dough again. And it's kind of starting to want to pull away from the edges. So let's turn this off and let's take a look. I don't know if you can see that. My hand's in the water. No, I don't know. I don't know, I feel like I messed up. Okay, so that did not go according to plan at all. So I almost gave up, but I decided to pivot. So I took the dough and I got 4 tablespoons of olive oil, put it in the bowl. I took that dough and added it to the dough with the olive oil. And I've let it sit for about 2 hours. So I'm going to pivot this into making faux-caccia. And let's see if this turns out well. And I did go back and rewatch that video. And I think I can see the point at which things went wrong. So I'll point it out during editing. So let's give this a try. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fold in. Make sure I have some oil in my hands. I'm going to dip and lift. Then you turn the bowl. And I'm just kind of trying to lift that dough onto itself, so we can get the oil in there. Yeah, there's no way that was going to turn out right. So what I'm going to do, because I don't want a thick focaccia, is I'm going to divide this into half. And before I go make some more disasters, I need to clean my hands and bring in our pan. Get the oil off. Put this to the side for a few seconds. I have a 9 by 13 pan, and I need to grease that. So I should probably just get the olive oil out and put in about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half. All right, I'm going to do about a tablespoon. And you can use whatever olive oil you like. And I need some space over here. And I'm going to take this focaccia. And I'm just going to spread this out in the pan. And we're going to let this rise again for about an hour. This did the first rise for 2 hours. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this back in the oven, and we're going to let this rise for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I'll show you the steps as we go. I'm going to clean my hands one more time and get that out of the way. And I'm just letting this sit in the oven. The oven is not turned on. Just going to let it sit in there for an hour and let it rise one more time. Set the timer for 1 hour. Get my silicone bag. I think you've seen me use these silicone bags before. So I'm storing this the way I always store my pizza dough when I put it in the freezer. So I'm just going to lift this out. Make sure this is nicely coated. Yeah, there's no way that was ever going to work. We sped right through where we were supposed to have stopped. All right. Oh, I can barely lift that. Get that in there. And we'll put that in the freezer. And we'll see you in about an hour when we are ready for the next step. All right, while we're waiting for that to finish rising, thought I would come back and mention what I'm going to be using for my fillings. And I am using olives, just some black olives, some jalapeno peppers, some onions, sausage, and a few cherry tomatoes. And I might sprinkle some rosemary. I haven't decided about that. And for our base, I am out of my homemade marinara sauce. So I am going to be using this one. We got this at Costco and it comes in a 2-pack. You can see it has really clean ingredients. So as soon as that dough is done rising, we'll be right back. All right, so our dough has been sitting for about an hour. And as I mentioned, this is going to be really, really thin. We don't like a huge crust for our pizza. So I am going to start getting my ingredients on. And we are going to start with the marinara. And I tasted the marinara and decided to add about a teaspoon of oregano. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to use my hands. My hands are clean. And I'm just going to create some holes with my fingers in here. And this is my first time using focaccia. So all this is an experiment, and hopefully we're not going to fail twice today. So I'm going to get this on there. Some 8 corners. And I'm not going to be using any basil today. Actually, you know what? I should have gotten some and just put it on like half of the pizza. You know, there's always next time. We have one more, and based on how this comes out, maybe we'll do that next time. Alright, so the next thing I want to put on there, I'll go ahead and do the little tomatoes. Not too many. No, I didn't get that many anyway. Looks like that is just about right. So maybe I can just get a few more in there. And making sure we have at least one in each bite. Next, I am going to put on my onions. Sprinkle a little bit of onion. We don't mind the taste of onion in our pizza, so put in as much or as little as you like. The next thing I'm going to do is the black olives. And again, I'm just going to sprinkle this throughout as evenly as I can. And I'm heating the oven to around 410 degrees. Alright, let's get our sausage in there. And all this is personal preference. Put in as much or as little as you like. Yes, Dee. What's going on? What is it? To make sure we're not having any crowding. And everything is just about even throughout, so you get a bite of your ingredients in every bite. You know, sometimes I obsess. I think that's going to be good. Next, we're going to put in our jalapenos. Put in as much or as little as you like. Oh, that smells good. Wish you could smell that. And that's about as even as I'm going to get things. A little too much in that corner. Let's get a few over there. Actually, I should leave it that way because I don't want as much jalapeno as Roger likes. So I will look for those places that do not have too much. Isn't that pretty? Alright, the final ingredient. Actually, what I should do is spray just a little bit of oil on those veggies so they do not burn. Just a little bit. So faux-caccia already has tons and tons of olive oil. I want to make sure my veggies do not just sit there and burn. I'm going to push things down a little bit just to sink them into the focaccia. Make sure those jalapenos are not sticking too far out so they remain moist. And I should probably have put them in as one of the first things that I did after I put in the sauce, just to protect them a little more, but it's going to be fine. Now, for the final part, I'm going to put on the cheese, and I have the raw jalapeno cheddar cheese. And we normally get this from Azure Standard. And I buy a block, and I just cut it up and put it in the freezer. And I grate the cheese as I need it. And I really enjoy the fact that it has that slight jalapeno kick. I'm just going to go ahead and use it all. It's also going to help protect the veggies. Not too much cheese, just enough so it doesn't overpower everything else. I think that's a good amount. And now we're just waiting for the oven to finish heating up. And as I mentioned before, it's set to 410. And once it's completely heated up, I'll give it another maybe 10 minutes before I put in the pizza. And once the pizza is done cooking, we'll come back and see how it turns out. And yes, I did not use the rosemary. I used the oregano instead. So we will see you once the pizza is out of the oven. I think you can hear the beeping. So I'm going to give the oven about 10 minutes and then we'll get the pizza in. And we'll see you right after the pizza is done. It's time to get the pizza into the oven, and we are going to check it after about 10 minutes. It has been 10 minutes, and it looks like we still need to give the pizza some more time. That is looking really good. I wish you could smell it. So I'm going to give it another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll be back when it's done. All right, that looks good. Bring it in a little closer. So I'm going to let this sit for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then I'm going to take it out of the pan. I don't want to try to handle it while it's that hot. So we'll be right back. Let me see if I can do this safely. I don't want the pizza sitting in that dish for too long because I want the crust to remain hard. Okay, that was kind of easy enough doing that step. So I'm going to put this aside. So now I'm going to slide it over. And let's see if I can use this to slide it onto, well, I don't know. There we go. I have that parchment paper under there because I wasn't sure how much oil was going to drip, if any. Not my best work, but there we go. So that's what that looks like. And as you can see, it's nice and thin. I don't know that that really browned the way I would like. And hopefully that dough has cooked enough. But we will find out. So I kind of feel a little better about where we have ended up. I don't know if I should put that on the pan just to see if I can get that a little drier. Okay, maybe this is what I'll do. Have it on a low broil, just sitting on that rack. I'll set the timer for about 5 minutes, but I'm going to watch really closely because broil can be disastrous really fast. And probably I should put this at the bottom. Let's use the one we've been using the whole time, just so it doesn't drip onto the bottom of the oven. Today did not go according to plan, but at the same time, I'm glad I didn't give up and turn the camera off. Hopefully something tasty comes out of this. We'll be back in a minute or two. All right, so that might have gotten a little bit toasty, but we definitely have a better crust. Kind of looks like the pizza we normally make, but I think focaccia is supposed to be a little less toasty, but that's where we are at. So we'll give this about 5 minutes and then we'll cut into it. So we'll be back. All right, let's cut into this thing. Oh, that was not a straight cut. They're definitely crisped up, so that is good. I'm going to turn it back this way. Get a cut in the middle. Oh, that's really crispy. Okay. So that's what that looks like on the inside. I'm going to give it a taste. It's good, but I think next time we'll let it rise a little more. So that's it.